Hey there, Vault Dwellers, NakedVaultDweller here, and in this video we're going to cover the latest E3 video which highlights expeditions for Fallout 76. If you like tips and tricks and walkthroughs and the occasional news and some poorly constructed dad jokes, then go ahead and hit the subscribe button down below. And if you would, like the video, as it always helps. Lastly, if you hit that notification icon, you'll know exactly whenever I release a video, so hit that too. Okay, so with E3, it looks like Xbox and Microsoft, along with Bethesda, are going to be bringing a lot of great titles to us in the coming year. I'm sure there's a lot of other YouTubers out there that's covered the content that came out of the E3 show for Bethesda and Microsoft. Now, I don't want to cross over anything that they may have done, so I just want to focus on the stuff that's coming out for the expeditions, because there's a lot of unsaid stuff here, and there's probably a lot of stuff that people don't know. And I'll be the first to admit that whenever I started to do the research on the Pitt and the expedition that's coming out, there was some stuff that I didn't know either. Now, I seriously doubt that there's many of you out there that hasn't seen the video already. It's about 30 seconds long. If you've already seen it, just jump ahead about 30 seconds and we'll pick back up on the conversation.
What the hell was that? Expedition Squad Delta, report, over. Squad Delta, what's going on out there? Come on, this isn't funny.
I know you can hear me. Command, Miller, Hernandez, South Answer. Captain, get out of here.
Now, let me say here that whenever I first saw this portion of the video, I actually didn't know I was looking at Fallout 76. It looked pretty different and the area was something I'd never seen before. It wasn't until the arm flopped into the screen and I saw the Pip-Boy that I realized I was looking at some Fallout content. After the E3 show was over with, I went back and looked at that over and over and over again, wondering what Bethesda was really trying to say to us and what they were really trying to show us. And it was at that point that I jumped into the Naked Vault Dweller Discord channel and grabbed a hold of a couple of guys that I knew something about the Brotherhood of Steel and could answer some of my questions. I also want to add that if you're not part of the Naked Vault Dweller Discord channel, there's going to be a link down in the description. In fact, for all the content you're going to see here that I'm going to put links down there in the description for them, but Discord's probably going to be at the top, so that way if there's anybody who want to jump in there and converse with everybody else or just hang out, cool place to go. Love to see you there. Okay, so expeditions, or at least the term, is not a new term inside of Fallout 76. It's been data mined for some time and quite a few people already know about some type of expedition. This expedition is going to be cross-linked with another Fallout game, one of the previous games, Fallout 3. And it's not just Fallout 3 we're talking about here. This is actually a DLC that was part of Fallout 3 called The Pit. So many of the things that we do in Fallout 76 are kind of the precursor to what happens in Fallout 3, even though it's kind of backwards. You can actually get Fallout 3 off of Steam for $9.99, and you can get the extra DLC for the Pit. I think it was additional $4.99 there, if you think it's something you'd like to go ahead and play through. So from here, I'd like to go ahead and break down the actual trailer video for Expeditions that Bethesda advertised on E3. Starting here at the beginning, you'll notice that there's a helicopter pilot talking into a radio to what appears to be some other squad that's out there called Delta Squad. Okay, so let's stop the video here just for a second. I thought there was some relevance to the actual jacket that he's wearing, but it actually turns out that this is the Flyboy jacket that you can get from the Atomic Shop at certain times. Next, moving outside the vertibird, you'll see that it's actually on a landing pad for a vertibird, and you'll notice that here in the top right hand corner that you're going to see an emblem on the vertibird. This is a common emblem and it's something that I mistook as well. It's funny how you don't pay attention to stuff like that until it's actually in front of you. Again, I do want to emphasize that it's actually on a vertibird landing pad, so that tells me maybe that's perhaps how we're actually going to get there whenever the expeditions start, and we'll look at that in just a little bit. Next, you'll notice that the door will close, and behind the door was a super sledge, which made me originally think that possibly there's going to be super mutants in this area, and there still might be. There's also some other pretty common equipment laying on the floor. Just to the left of the super sledge, you're going to see that stim pack there. Playing a little further into this, you'll also see that there's two dead soldiers lying on the ground. One perched up against the wall here next to the door, and the other one is lying right here with a revolver just out of reach. I think this group might have been some type of mercenaries, because if you look back through the lore of the Brotherhood of Steel inside the Pit, supposedly none of the Brotherhood of Steel died save one, and even he did not die. Of course, I might be completely wrong there. Lore is not exactly my strong suit. That's why I'm asking you guys to chime in down there in the comments if you hear or see something that is potentially incorrect or not in place. Anyway, once we move past the dead soldiers lying on the floor, you'll see that a hand will flop into frame and it will have a Pip-Boy attached to it. Now, it was actually at this point that I realized that I was watching Fallout content when I was watching the E3 show. Most of you Fallout people probably already know what that Pip-Boy says on it, but if you zoom in close enough, you'll see a Vault Boy climbing out of the ground or in the ground with a tombstone that reads RIP. That is not what I found to be interesting. What I found to be interesting was at the bottom there, it reads Expedition Leader Bravo. Say what? So if you remember at the beginning of this video, the Vertibird pilot was actually calling out to Delta Squad, not Bravo Squad, which makes me wonder if there'll be multiple squads within the pit zone that can coordinate with one another during this expedition. And also here in Fallout 76, has anyone seen anyone alive wearing a Pip-Boy? I mean, Samuel, who is in Foundation, is from a vault, but he's not wearing a Pip-Boy. Lastly, on this particular image, the fact that this person is actually wearing a Pip-Boy completely blows my mind. If you've got any thoughts on why Bethesda may have put this in here, definitely leave us a comment on that. Now we're going to go ahead and advance the video some. You'll see the body being pulled away, and at that time you'll also hear a growling sound. There's some speculation on what actually makes that growling sound. And let me just take a moment and just kind of explain to you what we're probably going to be faced with whenever we get to the pit. And this opinion is based upon what I've read from the Fallout Wiki, The Pit, and from all the places I've gathered, it looks like these creatures are going to be called trogs, which are humanoid type creatures that are very dangerous. And of course, I might be wrong. It could be super mutants that we're going to be dealing with, but I really think if they're going to stick to the storyline, it's going to be trogs. And if you've never seen a trog before, here's kind of an image of what it might look like from the Fallout Wiki. Trogs are going to look very similar to what feral ghouls look like, and they're going to move around similar to what the Wendigos move like. In closing on this image, let us know down there in the comments what you think pulled that body away, or am I on target with the trogs? As the camera pulls further and further away from the building, you'll notice in the background that there's some smokestacks with smoke coming out of them. And I know that I'm not exactly Captain Obvious, but if that's the case, then somebody's actually got to be working some furnace. Heading back to the Fallout Wiki, it tells us that slaves are actually working the furnaces, and those slaves are overseen by a group of people called pit raiders. It's never actually said what exactly is being made at the factories back there with the slaves, but there is strong indication that there is a great deal of trade being made, including slaves. In fact, if you head on over to Foundation to Derek and Elsie Taylor's house, you'll find a note indicating that they actually met at the pit, where she was an officer and he built things for them. They eventually got away and met up with other settlers and took a train into Appalachia where they settled at Foundation. So slaves and slave traders are part of all the groups that are up there in Pittsburgh. Next, we'll turn our attention to the sign here on the side of the building, which is Gray Tortoise. And most of you already know that's just cigarettes inside of Fallout 4 and Fallout 76. There's not really much to look out here. This might be like the headquarters for the Gray Tortoise, or it actually may be an advertisement listed on the side of the building. In either case, I don't think it's very relevant, but I still wanted to point it out that it's there. Lastly, as the sign pans out further and further, you'll see the Welcome to the Pit for Pittsburgh sign. And this is, if not the same sign, very similar to the one that was listed in Fallout 3. And for those who don't want to read the Fallout Wiki, basically the Brotherhood of Steel went into the pit to clear out anything that's in there. They called it the Scourge at the time. They basically killed everyone and everything that didn't surrender to them immediately. It's also said that the Brotherhood of Steel also discovered an asset that was super important to them while they were there. And of course, leave it up to Bethesda for us to decide what exactly that asset was. All we can tell is that it was a piece of technology. Outside of that, during the Scourge, whenever the Brotherhood of Steel went in, they pretty much wiped everything out in one night with only one fatality. And like I said earlier, they thought the person was actually dead. He actually ended up not dying because he was wearing power armor. I don't really want to go into the complete details of that, because even if that's the case during this scenario, we probably won't see much of that, but I can't help to think that Asher is going to play some part in this expedition. So here's a couple things to point out. When I look on the map, the real world map of where Morgantown is versus where Pittsburgh is, you're looking at 75 miles. I really can't see this being an extension to the actual map, so it's going to probably sit behind a load screen. I speculate by accessing the pit, we'll actually get into a vertibird and fly off. Now, we may not see ourselves flying off, it may just be assumed, but I think that we'll just get into a vertibird and do that. And I think that vertibird will actually be located on the helipad just outside of Atlas, this one here. Now, we already know, and it's already been established, that this is going to be a Brotherhood of Steel mission. And it's either going to be the mission, the Scourge, or it's going to be a pre-mission to that. Because what we're doing here is actually laying the groundwork for the game Fallout 3. So I'm particularly interested in what you guys think about this expedition in the Brotherhood of Steel. Lore videos is not exactly my strong suit, but it's something that I love and take pride in doing. If I've gotten any of this wrong, leave us a comment down there in the comment section and set me straight. And that includes you, Bethesda, even though I seriously doubt you know I exist. And speaking of exist, I asked my dad what his parents' generation did to cure boredom before internet and TV existed. Neither him nor his 28 siblings had an answer. And that's it for me, Vault Dwellers. Thanks for watching.
You see where she landed? I just jumped on top of this thing and she landed right there with me. What is it doing?